Hi, I'm Bakhtiar Sanov and welcome to AnewZ. Let's see the top stories shaping our world. Hamas makes hostage pledge but demands changes to US Gaza ceasefire plan. Poland votes for new president in high-stakes runoff election. Turkish defense company Aselsan has been selected as one of 5 firms chosen by the NATO Support and Procurement Agency. Hamas has responded to a US-backed Gaza ceasefire proposal, offering to release hostages but demanding key changes to the deal. Both Israel and Washington have called the response unacceptable.
Hamas says it's willing to release 10 Israeli hostages and the remains of 18 more in exchange for more than 1,200 Palestinian prisoners, but only if key parts of the US-backed ceasefire proposal are changed. The group is pushing for a permanent truce, full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and guaranteed humanitarian access, none of which are included in the current deal. A document seen by Reuters lays out Hamas's conditions: reopening the Rafah crossing for free civilian movement, the resumption of goods deliveries and rebuilding Gaza's shattered infrastructure, from water and electricity to hospitals, schools and bakeries. The response was submitted to US envoy Steve Witkoff, who dismissed it as totally unacceptable and accused Hamas of stalling, while Israel's Defense Minister Katz warned Hamas to either accept the deal or face annihilation. On the ground, the humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate. Gaza's health ministry says more than 54,000 people have been killed since the war began, with aid agencies warning of widespread starvation. The UN has called Gaza's current situation the worst in the 19-month war, saying the entire population is at risk of famine.
At least 30 people were killed and over 100 injured in an airstrike near an aid distribution site in Rafah. The area was managed by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a group recently approved to operate with Israeli backing. There was no immediate comment from Israel on the reported attack. The Israeli military previously acknowledged firing warning shots near a GHF site to manage crowds, but denied striking the facility directly. At least 7 people have died and dozens others remain injured after 2 bridges collapsed in different Russian regions. It's unclear whether the incidents in the Kursk and Bryansk regions are related, though a cause of the incidents has not yet been established. Officials have blamed the collapse on an explosion. Authorities have deployed rescue teams to the affected areas, and the injured have been transported to a medical facility. The areas in Russia's south have been subject to frequent attacks by Ukraine during the war that Russia started with its full-scale invasion more than 3 years ago. Poles headed to the polls on Sunday for a decisive presidential runoff that could shape the country's political direction for years to come. Turnout will hold the key to the contest between Rafael Trzaskowski of ruling centrist Civic Coalition and Karol Nawrocki, backed by nationalist Law and Justice. While the Polish presidency holds limited executive power, the ability to veto legislation gives the role significant influence. Outgoing President Andrzej Duda, a Law and Justice ally, frequently used his veto to block efforts by Prime Minister Donald Tusk to reverse controversial judicial reforms enacted by the previous government. With Trzaskowski holding a slight lead in the latest polls, voter turnout is expected to be a decisive factor. Polls close at 9 p.m. local time, with exit polls to follow shortly after. Final results are expected on Monday morning or on early afternoon, according to the Electoral Commission. South Koreans are heading to the polls next week in a snap presidential election following the dramatic ousting of former leader Yoon Suk-yeol. But as candidates are ramping up their campaigns, concerns are growing that political divisions are overshadowing serious policy debate.
South Korea is heading into a snap presidential election, and voters are facing a race heavy on politics but light on policy. Supporters of the 2 leading candidates, the conservative Kim Moon-soo and the liberal Lee Jae-myung, are rallying across the country. But experts are saying what's missing is knowing what the two candidates will actually do. Park Kyung-jun, head of the Korean Association for Policy Studies, is saying voters aren't getting enough to judge how pledges will affect their lives.
Voters should be able to assess how a pledge affects them personally and make choices accordingly. Something like, this candidate's policy will impact me in this way, so I'll vote for them. But we saw very little of that.
Even this week, most candidates are only releasing summaries. Full policy booklets are landing just days before early voting, and on key issues like foreign policy and national security, experts say candidates are staying vague. Professor Nam Tae-woo is saying many are dodging tough questions, especially on foreign policy with the US, China, and Japan.
Foreign policy and national security are areas where we're seeing generational divides and complex concerns. But many candidates seem to be avoiding clear positions on these in their pledges.
It's also been a notable issue. There's no female presidential candidate for the first time in nearly 2 decades. And on the streets of Seoul, the message from voters is clear. They want more focus on real-world issues such as housing and inflation.
This is ignoring the voices of the many women who braved the freezing cold and spent nights in the square demanding the restoration of democracy.
I wish they had taken housing supply and boosting domestic market more seriously in their pledges, but perhaps because it's a snap election, that kind of in-depth consideration seems to be missing, which is a bit disappointing.
Turnout is already breaking early voting records, and with election day set for the 3rd of June, many are heading to the polls, still looking for answers after months of political chaos.
Iran is reviewing a new U.S. proposal for a nuclear agreement, according to Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The proposal was relayed by Oman's foreign minister during a brief visit to Tehran on Saturday. Araghchi stated on X that Iran will respond to the U.S. proposal in line with the principles, national interests and rights of people of Iran. His statement came ahead of an anticipated 6th round of talks between Washington and Tehran to resolve a decades-long dispute over Iran's nuclear program. The date and venue of the talks haven't been announced yet. White House Press Secretary confirmed that President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has submitted a detailed and acceptable proposal and urged Iran to accept the offer.
The Secretary of Health and Human Services announced more layoffs today.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has identified Iran's covert nuclear activities at 3 undeclared sites and a significant increase in its enriched uranium stockpile, promoting potential international repercussions.
A confidential report by the International Atomic Energy Agency has revealed that Iran conducted covert nuclear activities at 3 undeclared sites, Lavisan Shian, Varamin and Turkuzabad, using materials not reported to the agency. These findings suggest the existence of a structured nuclear program that was active until the early 2000s. The IAEA criticized Iran's lack of satisfactory cooperation and noted unexplained uranium traces at certain sites. In a separate report, the IAEA stated that as of May 17th, Iran's stockpile of uranium enriched up to 60% purity had increased by nearly 50%, reaching 408.6 kilograms. This quantity is sufficient, if further enriched, for 9 nuclear weapons, raising serious concerns among international observers. The United States, United Kingdom, France and Germany are considering submitting a draft resolution at the upcoming IAEA Board of Governors meeting to formally declare Iran in violation of its non-proliferation obligations. Such a resolution would mark the first formal non-compliance finding against Iran in nearly 2 decades. Iran's foreign ministry has rejected the IAEA's report as politically motivated and warned of appropriate measures in response to any actions taken against the country. These developments come amid ongoing nuclear negotiations between Tehran and Washington, with the potential to further complicate diplomatic efforts.
Thousands of Muslims have gathered for prayers at Meccas Grand Mosque. This comes ahead of the Hajj pilgrimage scheduled to begin on June the 4th.
Thousands of Muslims have gathered for prayers at Meccas Grand Mosque ahead of the Hajj pilgrimage. The pilgrims have come from various countries in the world, with some visiting the holy Muslim site for the first time. They have expressed joy and gratitude for being able to perform the pilgrimage.
I have wanted to come here for a long time to see the Kaaba. This is the first time I see it, and I am very, very, very happy that I am seeing the Kaaba. I am very, very happy and pleased. I asked God for it, and praise be to God, God has given it to me. Praise be to God.
Hajj is an annual pilgrimage that draws millions of Muslims to the holy city of Mecca, where they carry out a series of sacred rituals first practiced by the Prophet Muhammad over 1,400 years ago. As the fifth pillar of Islam, it's a religious duty required once in a lifetime for every physically and financially able Muslim, representing the highest expression of Islamic faith, devotion, and global unity. The pilgrimage takes place during the 12th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, meaning its timing shifts each year in relation to the solar calendar. This year will take place from June 4th to June 9th. More than 1 million people have already travelled to Mecca.
A series of natural disasters has struck communities across Nigeria, India, Indonesia and Switzerland, leaving behind devastation, loss of life and widespread displacement.
The death toll from severe flooding in Nigeria's Niger state has risen to at least 151 as recovery efforts continue in the town of Mokwa. Triggered by heavy overnight rainfall, the disaster has displaced more than 3,000 people and affected over 500 households. Water levels surged so high that rooftops were barely visible, forcing residents to navigate waist-deep waters through the devastation. In India, days of relentless rainfall have caused widespread flooding and landslides across several northeastern and northern regions. Cities like Guwahati have been heavily waterlogged, with roads and homes submerged, forcing residents to wade through knee-deep water or abandon their vehicles. In some areas, families were unable to evacuate due to challenging conditions. The downpour has triggered landslides, damaged homes and disrupted essential infrastructure. Authorities have reported multiple casualties and set up emergency shelters to assist affected communities. Search efforts are ongoing to find people still buried beneath the rubble after a rock collapse at a quarry in West Java, Indonesia. At least 10 people have been confirmed dead following the incident at the Gunung Kuda mining site, where heavy machinery was also trapped under debris. The latest satellite images show mud, destroyed structures and submerged homes in the Alpine village of Blatten following a massive glacier collapse in Switzerland's Lötschental Valley, which happened earlier this week. The rock and ice avalanche wiped out 90% of the village and blocked the Lonza River, forming a temporary lake. Fears of downstream flooding have led authorities to issue warnings and urge nearby communities like Gampel and Steg to prepare for possible evacuation.
Scientists say climate change is no longer a future threat. It's here and it's heating up our world faster than expected. A new report warns that extreme heat is affecting billions of people. While in Europe, leaders are preparing a major climate target for 2040, but not without controversy.
A stark warning from scientists this week: human-caused climate change is making the world hotter, faster. Over the past year alone, half of the global population experienced 30 additional days of extreme heat. A new report from World Weather Attribution, Climate Central, and the Red Cross Climate Centre finds that heat waves are becoming more frequent, more intense, and more deadly. The researchers say climate change has doubled the number of extreme heat days in 195 countries. They call it an underappreciated threat, one that many governments still underestimate. The findings come just days before Heat Action Day, urging global leaders to take extreme heat seriously. The report recommends better monitoring, stronger early warning systems, and the rollout of heatwave action plans. The findings come just days before Heat Action Day, urging global leaders to take extreme heat seriously. The report recommends better monitoring, stronger early warning systems, and the rollout of heatwave action plans. But while scientists raise the alarm, European politicians face growing backlash over green policies. The European Commission plans to unveil a new climate target in July. Diplomats say Brussels wants to include flexibilities in the proposal. That can mean lower emission targets for domestic industries or allowing countries to buy international carbon credits to make up the difference. Some nations back the plan, like Finland, the Netherlands and Denmark, whilst others, including Italy and the Czech Republic, remain opposed. With Europe warming faster than ever, the balance between environmental action and economic costs remains under fierce debate.
Saudi Arabia and Qatar have announced a joint initiative to provide financial support to state employees in Syria over a 3-month period. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud made an announcement during a press conference in Damascus with his Syrian counterpart Assad al-Shibani. While the exact sum hasn't been disclosed, this move follows a previous contribution in April by both Gulf nations to pay off Syria's $15 million debt to the World Bank. In a significant boost to Turkey's international defense profile, the country's leading defense firm Aselsan has been selected by the NATO Support and Procurement Agency to take part in a key air defense initiative. The project, known as the Modular Ground-Based Air Defense, or GBAD, brings together some of the world's top defense companies. Turkish defense company Aselsan has joined 4 of the world's top defense giants: Airbus Defence and Space GmbH, Lockheed Martin UK, Raytheon and Thales LAS in a major NATO initiative to develop modular air defense solutions. The selection marks a milestone for Turkey's defense industry and underscores Aselsan's growing international reputation. The NATO Support and Procurement Agency, or NSPA, says the 5 companies will begin with a concept study phase, focusing on system architecture. This foundational work will help shape the future of NATO's modular, flexible and interoperable air defense infrastructure. Project deliverables are due by mid-September, when the most viable system designs will be evaluated. According to NATO officials, the agreement demonstrates both effective multinational coordination and the efficiency of NATO's internal procurement mechanisms. Each company will contribute independently, offering innovative perspectives and solutions in a competitive framework. The overall goal is to meet NATO's demanding operational and logistical requirements with systems that not only advanced, but also adaptable and sustainable. For Turkey, Aselsan's involvement serves as international validation of its indigenous capabilities in layered air defense. From barrel systems to a full spectrum of missile defense solutions, short, medium and long range, Aselsan has positioned itself as a reliable and technologically mature defense partner. This step forward also supports NATO's ambition to become the preferred hub for multinational defense procurement, reinforcing collective security through shared innovation. The Muslim world holds vast untapped economic potential. That was the key message delivered by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan at the second Global Islamic Economy Summit in Istanbul. Erdogan urged deeper cooperation among Islamic countries in trade, finance and investment, while also highlighting Turkey's ambition to make Istanbul a leading hub for Islamic finance. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Friday highlighted the Muslim world's underperformance and untapped economic potential, urging for greater intra-Islamic cooperation in trade, finance and investment. Addressing delegates at the second Global Islamic Economy Summit in Istanbul, Erdogan emphasized the disparity between the Muslim world's demographic weight and its economic clout.
Dünya nüfusunun %25'ini oluşturuyoruz.
Muslims account for 25% of the world's population, yet Islamic finance assets total only about $2.5 trillion. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is the largest international organization after the United Nations, consists of 57 member countries. However, their share in global trade is only around 11%. In terms of population, we represent 25% of the world, yet our contribution to the global economy is approximately 9%. As the Islamic world, we must maximize our trade, investment, financial cooperation and collaboration opportunities.
Ve işbirliği imkanlarını en üst düzeye çıkarmamız gerekiyor.
President Erdogan also highlighted Turkey's commitment to establishing Istanbul as a global Islamic finance hub, citing the Istanbul Financial Center initiative as a major step in that direction.
Katılım finansın İstanbul merkezli olarak gelişip serpilmesine
The collaborations we have initiated under the Istanbul Financial Center serve as a concrete testament to our efforts to integrate into the global economy while preserving our Islamic values. With the dedicated efforts of our institutions and authorities, I hope we can transform these advantages into lasting achievements.
kazanımlara tahvil edebilmeyi ümit ediyorum.
The second Global Islamic Economy Summit brings together high-level officials, experts and private sector representatives. The gathering is focused on increasing operational efficiency, encouraging innovation, strengthening risk management, promoting financial participation and supporting cooperation among industry stakeholders by developing a deeper understanding of Islamic principles.
Müslümanlar olarak
Turkey is taking a significant step forward in its energy independence journey. The country's first ever floating natural gas production unit, Osman Gazi, has officially arrived at its new home in the Black Sea. Designed to double the nation's offshore gas production, the vessel marks a major milestone in Turkey's natural gas strategy. Turkey's first floating natural gas production unit, Osman Gazi, docked at Filios port in Zonguldak on the Black Sea coast on Saturday, marking a new era in the country's offshore energy capabilities. The vessel was dispatched on May 29th from the presidential Dolmabahce office in Istanbul during a high-profile ceremony commemorating the 572nd anniversary of the conquest of Istanbul. After passing through the strategic Istanbul Strait, Osman Gazi arrived at its deployment zone in the Black Sea, where it will play a critical role in ramping up national gas output. Once full operational, the platform will have the capacity to process up to 10.5 million cubic meters of natural gas per day and deliver as much as 10 million cubic meters daily to onshore facilities. This boost will double Turkey's current natural gas production in the Black Sea, increasing total output to 20 million cubic meters per day. According to officials, the projected increase in production will be sufficient to meet the natural gas needs of approximately 8 million households across the country. Osman Gazi will operate at its designated site for 20 years. It's a massive structure, 298.5 meters long, 56 meters wide and 29.5 meters deep, and is designed to house 140 personnel on board. Preparatory work is ongoing with operations scheduled to begin by mid-2026. This move is seen as a key part of Turkey's long-term goal to reduce energy imports and strengthen its energy security through domestic resources. Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan have taken important steps to strengthen their judicial cooperation. During an official visit to Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan's Minister of Justice Farid Ahmadov met with his Uzbek counterpart Akbar Tashkulov to discuss ways to expand ties between their countries' legal systems. They signed a cooperation program for 2025 to 2026 between the two justice ministries. The agreement includes joint efforts in legal training, digitalization of judicial services, legislative reforms, notarial practices, and forensic expertise. As Armenia and Azerbaijan edge closer to peace, AnewZ asked people in Yerevan, Tbilisi and Baku, how will peace between the two nations affect the region? In part 2 of our special report, citizens share their views on trade, trust and the road ahead.
Across Armenia, Georgia and Azerbaijan, citizens are weighing the potential ripple effects of peace. Could it open doors to economic growth or bring new challenges?
If Zangezur region is opened by Armenia, there will be many trade roads that will link Silk Road, one of the Central Asia, China, through Azerbaijan to Turkey and Europe. And both countries will benefit Armenia and Azerbaijan.
I think it could bring more travel, job, and trade opportunities around South Caucasus. Also, this peace could make region more stable, attracting new investments and opening doors for new relationships.
From corridors to cooperation, many see peace as the key to unlocking regional development.
Մենք պետք է շփվենք, որ զարգանանք։ Կարևոր որ սա հանրապետությունները պետք է զարգանան։ Իմ կարծիքով շփումը շատ մեծ նշանակություն ունի։ Թշնամություն պետք չէ լինի։
But others warn the political legacy of conflict still casts a long shadow.
Շատ վատ է անդրադառնում, շատ վատ է անդրադառնում։ Մեծ խաղացողներն են ներգրավված, ոչ մի հեռանկար չի տալիս տարածաշրջանին բնականon հանգիստ ընթացք ունենալու։
I think it will affect Georgia not in a good way, because most of the traffic of the goods and everything for now was passing through the Georgia because of this conflict, and now it means that we will be no more needed.
Generational change may be the key to breaking the cycle.
So I think maybe not our generation, but the next generation will be free of these prejudices and their thoughts. And I would love to feel free everywhere where I go. So that's why hopefully the future will be bright for everyone.
Война – это плохая вещь. Շատ վատ բան է, շատ։ Ոչ մի սովորական ադրբեջանցի, ոչ մի սովորական հայ չի ուզում պատերազմ։
Even with disagreements, some things unite both sides. A desire for normalcy, stability, and a more hopeful future.
I think only positive, because peace is always making a good and positive impact on not only both sides, but also in whole region. That's my point of view.
Իհարկե վադա, պետք է խաղաղություն անպայման, լարվածություն պետք չի ոչ մեկի։ Հարավային Կովկասում լարվածություն պետք չէ երբևիցե։
From Tbilisi to Baku and back to Yerevan, one message is clear. The region's fate rests not only in treaties, but in trust, trade, and the shared will for change.
Well, that's all we have for now from Baku. Stay tuned to AnewZ for more updates.